Hi, my name is Katie Owen and welcome to the Glow Interviews. I am a psychic, author, motivational speaker and coach. The Glow Interviews is a place where we can talk to some really amazing and inspiring people who are a light in the darkness. I know that through talking with them, we'll all be left feeling empowered, motivated and hopeful for a brighter tomorrow. All of the contact details for both myself and my guest are in the description box below, so do feel free to check that out if that's something you're interested in. Today's guest is Amanda Hart. She is an intuitive consultant who helps people to overcome adversity as well as finding their power, their purpose and their voice. Alongside this, she's also the author of the book The Guys Upstairs and is Orion Publishing Angel Expert, having written 3 Talking with the Angels books. I feel deeply blessed to have the chance to speak with her today, and I know that you're going to be lit up when you listen to what she has to say. So hi Amanda, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you, Kate. No, thanks for a lovely welcome. Bless you.
Oh, bless you. You know, it's always strange when somebody reads your bio, I think. It's a bit like, oh, okay.
Yeah, kind of forget what I do really sometimes. It's nice, especially at the moment. So much is going on. It's like, really? Oh yeah, that's what I do.
Well, speaking of what's going on, you know, I always ask the first question. I can't really get away from it at the moment. 2020 has been just off the scale crazy, you know, with everything. So how have you been coping, and have you been able to find any blessings in all of this chaos?
Oh, it's just been so bizarre and a huge blessing to me. There's been some moments of real intensity and lots of change, but I've nearly finished a book that I've been writing during this process. So, and it's very much intrinsically linked to all the changes and perspectives that I have been viewing, you know, within myself and other people. And I never would have had that opportunity unless this kind of thing had happened, really. So it was a real blessing to actually sort of dive in there and be able to write something and produce something creatively from that source, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I tend to find that it allows people time to stop, perhaps the busy hamster wheel that we've all been living our lives on up to this point, and kind of go within. But of course, it's the emotion side of it has been it was for me anyway, it's kind of up and down. Some days have been great and some days not so much. I kind of
call it the bipolar effect. It is, you know, sometimes we're absolutely fine and we're really happy because we're counting our blessings and you know, we're really enriched by what's around us, which we don't really often pay attention to, and then other times we're really immersed in the drama. So it is the bipolar effect, unfortunately, but for a lot of us. But how do we find that balance? And that's what it's about. It's about being centered, and when you know yourself, you kind of can bring it all back in again, and then reconnect, and then just, you know, go merrily on your way until the next moment of wobble, madness.
I try to tell people that it's okay to not be okay. I think that's kind of the bottom line. I think people give themselves a hard time mentally for not being in a good space, but it's kind of, you can't expect to be in a good place all the time. It'd be a bit weird if you were, right?
Absolutely. And actually, it's funny enough you should say that, because I interviewed a guy called Aaron Kong who wrote a book. It's self-published called It's Okay Not to Be Okay, and that was when I was a presenter on My Spirit Radio years ago. And the directors didn't want me to interview him because he wasn't a published author, and in those days self-publishing was a bit of a taboo. It was, you know, well, you're not good enough. Actually, it was one of the best books I ever read, and I went on to work with Aram, and I just found him so insightful because of his background with his culture. The concept of being okay not to be okay was quite new to me, because I'd been driven by this force, which was the spiritual movement, which was, we've always got to keep being better. You know, we've always got to keep working on ourselves, so therefore we're striving for perfection. And actually at this moment in time is a real sort of reminder that actually perfection is not what it's about. It's about being okay with not being okay at times.
Yeah, I like that because I think more people need to hear that, so thank you for saying that. Definitely. So in your bio, obviously I spoke about you being an intuitive consultant, if I can speak.
Yeah.
So what does this actually entail, and what led to the work that you do? Because it's not something that I've necessarily come across before as a term.
So I mean, it's not certainly wasn't work that I wanted to go into. I went into it fighting and screaming, really. It was just that because of my upbringing and all the conditioning I'd had as a child, for selfish reasons, I needed to work on myself in the end when I realized that all sort of orthodox processes didn't work. To find out what is it, that keeps making me, attract all these negative situations and all these adversities. And I obviously knew then at some level that I needed to be able to do that for myself. And through doing that, then people saw that change in me and then started to approach me and said, well, if you're changing, we can see the product of your change. Can you help us? And I had no idea how to do that. But I'd always been very intuitive since I was a child. I grew up with a very psychic, intuitive, entrepreneurial father. And we lived, really I had a menagerie of animals around me. I lived in nature more than anything. So I was very at one with, nature and saw a lot of angelic movement and I heard them talking to me all the time and they came to me in my dreams. I had a lot of lucid dreams. So during my childhood, they were my friends. They were my family. So the angelic realm really was, it was just normal to me. As I grew into adulthood, I realized that actually that was not the case for many people, and I shut it down. And it was only because people were asking me to help others that I started to think, well, okay, how do I adapt this now? How do I reconnect with who I am? And as soon as I did that, they came back to me. I thought I'd shut them out. I hadn't. I just, I thought that they were ignoring me. It wasn't. It was the fact that I shut them out, and then I had to work on how that was going to come back in again. So it was. It's been a long process. It's not to say that I enjoy the work all the time, because sometimes it's very difficult, because it's not like going to work doing a 9 to 5. I have to keep progressing. I'm in training constantly. I'm always upgrading. I'm always having to go through another challenge. And that's the only way I can keep, doing the work that I'm doing. And I have been doing for nearly 30 years now. So it's a while.
So do you kind of help people to look at their own trauma and kind of help them to work through it? Is that kind of the idea of it?
So I've always been shown how the process. I have it's like a practice, and so I work with people. We open up and see what's going on with them. They tend to be the people that come to me after they've tried everything else, and so I'm the last port of call. So they tend to be quite extreme situations, you're feeling suicidal, or marriage breakups, or want to change their life, and often most of the people that come to me are light workers. So I'm known as a light worker activator. And so that they come along knowing that they're in this incredibly fearful place, and there's a trust and an openness and an honesty within themselves, which is saying, well, I know that somehow, I don't know how, but that she's going to help me. And so I help facilitate that, and you just tune in, because we're all connected to consciousness. So you and I and 7.5 billion people on the planet, the one common denominator is that we're all connected through consciousness. And all I do is tap in through the angelic realm, listen to what I'm being told, pass that on and relay that and we open up that person so that they then eventually are able to do the same themselves. There's no good just being a medium and just passing information on. It's more of a case of me opening them up to hear, and I'm passing and relaying information, and eventually they're able to do that themselves, so that it helps them for the long term. So that's where their power and purpose and their true nature comes in, their voice comes into play.
I love that, because so many of coaching and mentoring and stuff, like you say, it's kind of fixing the problem, but then not necessarily empowering them to go and help themselves away from that, is it? So it's kind of working with two things in tandem, isn't it, really?
Yeah, and many of my clients, you know, I still are in touch with 20 odd years down the line. You know, they come back to me and say, oh, and this is happening for me today, or, you know, there's something not quite right with my life, but I don't know how to fix it. I know that I need to come back to you. And I just remind them what they need to do. It's not that they don't know, they just need reminding. And that's okay too, because, you know, sometimes we do get faced with things that we think, oh, this is a biggie, you know, how do I deal with this? Because we tend to sort of equate everything to small, medium and large, don't we? You know, if it's a small thing, we can cope with it. If it's a big thing, we can't cope with it. You know, where does that come from? You know, we can cope with everything, because otherwise we wouldn't have attracted it in the first place. And all I do is we work with the law of polarity, which is the opposite is true to your nature if they're going through an adversity. And then we go in there and seek it and see the clues, and it's just fascinating. It's like having a you know, opening up a sort of a kaleidoscope and seeing all these different pictures and these colors, and you never saw it before. That's kind of what happens with clients. They suddenly realize that everything comes into view, and they see the answers, then they know how to move forward, and they have the power to do it themselves. And
it's just magical. It sounds like probably something that's desperately needed at the moment, I would think, more than ever.
At the moment, I'm working with more clients that so I work with them either one-to-one for over 6 weeks. Not so often at the moment. I'm working on my long-term program, which is a 4-month program. And these are people who are going through massive life changes. So therefore, there's a transition. So it's 8 sessions, and we work through the energy centers as well. So we have the first session, which is opening up, you know, what's going on for me right now. And then we work through the 7 energy centers each fortnight, and all the stuff that happens is weirdly, it's very unique to these people. It's like childbirth. But when we get between with the throat and the heart energy center sessions, there's always a wobble. So, you know, there is a common denominator with us all. We all have this wobble, and that's very much to do with programming, which is all sitting in the higher energy centers. When we come to this bit, we start going, oh, I can't do this, because this is where we're connected to everything here. So what we do is we wobble and we go and loop back, and we keep on just replaying and rehashing the same cycles. And that's why we get caught up in these cycles of deprivation. And I just help them to anchor through that. And eventually it affects everything, you know, relationships, health, money. You know, you can't get away from any of it. It's all connected.
Yeah, absolutely. God, that sounds fascinating. I'm just like, I almost forgot for a second that I was interviewing you. I was just like, God, that sounds really interesting. Focus, Katie, come back. So I know that you touched briefly on your childhood, and I know that your book, The Guys Upstairs, speaks of the experiences that you've been through, and it probably wasn't, I would thought, the easiest of books to write for you. So did you find it a very healing, cathartic tool in the writing process itself?
Yeah, well, I mean, really, I mean, I'd been asked to write the book by one of the directors at My Spirit Radio, and that was 2 years before I even decided. I thought it was ridiculous. I thought, there's no way I'm going to expose myself and reveal, you know, my life to the world, and so, because I am a very private person, although I've been working in the media all these years. It's ridiculous, and always had a fear of public speaking, but this now feels as normal to me as you know, making a cup of tea. It's just ridiculous. But that's when you work through the fears. You don't have that anymore. But I actually had to have surgery on my head, and that was that was a bit of a life change in 2010. And for some reason, I knew when I was going to come out of that I was going to start writing this book if I made it through. And it literally, I had a journal next to my bed. I was in quite a high dependency ward. It went wrong. I had to go back and have surgery again, because they pierced the spine, and I had spinal fluid leakage, and it caused complications. But somehow I knew that I was going to be okay, and I knew I had to write this book. And really, it was a very selfish thing. It was a cathartic process for me, because I thought, if I don't make it through and this actually fails anyway, then I've got something to pass on to my kids, so they can make sense of my very wacky life. And actually, I've convinced myself, I'm writing this for me. I'm not writing this for anybody else, because I need to do this. So it's very self-absorbed to start with. It took some years. I wrote it through a violent relationship as well. I wrote it in secret. I wrote it on my BlackBerry phone. So remember, you used to have a little BlackBerry phone with a QWERTY keyboard. So my little thumbs would do this. And I did that while I was doing a cleaning job because it was the only thing I could do at the time. It was just, it was a very bizarre process. And then eventually, the only reason it became published was because I built up my businesses. I'd got a home. I'd succeeded in what I thought was success in my life, lost everything, and went bankrupt. And the only thing I had left in this world was a part-written book. That's the only asset I had left. And I thought, okay, I'm paying attention now. And when I was forced into a corner, I ended up finishing the book.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
That was not the answer I expected. That's like,
do you know what? I wanted to write it in this beautiful Cotswold setting in this cottage overlooking an apple orchard. You know, that was the ideal. But it was never meant to be that way.
Every author has that, don't they? They have this kind of like idealised, I'm going to go away for months, it's going to be beautiful. And it doesn't work like that, right?
No.
No, absolutely. So has it helped you come to terms with the things that you've been through then?
It's made more sense, and it's anchored me more into my belief that I'm here to make changes, and an acceptance of my uniqueness, I guess, because you know, people kind of find that, you know, that they've got to be quite. My friends are very accepting of me. My younger children, not so understanding when I reinvent myself every 6 months. They say, you're like Madonna, you know, every 6 months, you know, can you not just do something and just stick with it, Mum? You know, that's what kids want. But I don't. And that's the thing. And it's, you know, I'm 53 and I've moved 42 times in my life. I will probably move several more, but it's just the way I am. And I've got incredible friends and family, and I love my support system, and I love the work that I do. But it's it's just I guess that anchored everything for me. And because of that book, Orion, Amanda Harris at Orion happened to pick it up and read it on a train, on a long train journey. After she read it in 4 days, came back, went to my agent, said she has to write for us. So they invited me to and signed it. I signed it was originally a 4-book deal, but I actually kept the rights to The Guys Upstairs. And wrote the 3 books for them, which I've just finished, and and I've continued to write ever since. So I'm now writing my 5th book. So it's
wow. And what's that all about?
So this has been about lockdown, but it's been again, it was channeled very, very similar to The Guys Upstairs. And I thought, how can, you know, The Guys Upstairs was very much about, you know, many years of my life. This was about some months in my life, but so much happened. And it's called The 3 Wise Men, and it really is quite an interesting concept of what I had to go through. So I'm kind of like the protagonist, not just in my book, but in the story that's unfolding, and I have no idea what is going to unfold. And this book came from this, and it was it's been quite an eye-opening experience. And then that has led me on to a new book that I'm going to be writing come May, and that's because I want to walk the Camino. So that's and it's a pretty big thing for me, because I've been wanting to do this for 18 years. So I'm going to write about that experience as well.
Goodness me. Like, I just feel like your energy, it's like you don't sit still long enough. I feel like you're always looking to expand into what's next. So it's certainly a very inspiring energy to listen to. I think I don't think anyone could listen to you talk and not go, well, if she can do that, what can I do? You know, I feel that you have that within you to inspire and empower other people quite naturally. I did work, actually. I went back into employment last year as well as my work, just because I needed to do something, because my kids were moving on to, you know, everyone had flown the nest, so you could call it empty nest syndrome. And lots of changes last year, and I was moving counties as well. But I actually ended up working for a company where I was coordinating nurses. Started there at the end of December, and then bang, I'm in this pandemic, and I'm at the most stressful, you know, point of reference that I can possibly put myself into. And it was the experiences that I was having with my co-workers, my colleagues, the clients, the nurses, their families, and I was in the midst of all of that, and I could only do that for a certain amount of time. I did burn out, step back from that, because I relapsed, and I've got ME because of my
in you know, the enormous amount of power that surges through me. My body can't cope with it, and then it says,
Yeah.
hang on, take a step back. So I've taken a step back, and now more of the spiritual work has come back in again with the writing and the clients. So, but during that gave me a lot of food for the creative essence. And funny enough, I'm working with a lot of nurses at the moment, so my clients, and I've just taken on a GP practice manager for a GP surgery, and she started with me, and that was early this morning. So, you know, there's no coincidence why these people are attracted to me.
Absolutely. I do think to some degree, I think things happen for you, not to you.
Yeah.
And I think it's what we do with the experiences that we go through that potentially helps us to kind of rise above them. You know, you can be a victim to your circumstance, or you can try and say, I'm going to use this in a positive way and do something with it, you know?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what do you wish that you'd known when you started out this journey that you know now?
That everything was going to be okay. I really, you know, it was there were moments of madness where I was absolutely beside myself with fear of not knowing where the next penny was going to come from. It was very difficult because I raised my children on my own, from my second marriage. I was a single parent, and I had to take a leap of faith, move away from the security of that, you know, the family bond, and had to really, you know, invest all my effort and energy into the work, trust it, and be able to provide an income for these two children that relied on me. And there were many moments where I thought, I'm not going to be able to pay the mortgage this month, or the rent, whatever was going on for me at that time. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to put food on the table. And I think if I knew how it was going to turn out now, back then, I would have had a much easier journey. But hey, what would I have had to write about, and what would I have had to see? So
it's certainly a journey, because, you know, I'm in that boat myself, and there are days when you're kind of like, I'm doing it, I'm wonderful, look at me, and then there's the days where like, oh my God, I'm doing it, this is really scary.
Exactly. And that's again, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think when you work in this kind of field, that is what I call the bipolar effect, and now the world is feeling that. Isn't it interesting that, you know, it doesn't have to be spiritual. I think nowadays it's more about being present. You know, a person with presence is somebody who's got empathy and compassion and understanding. They look at the bigger picture. They look about the effects, cause and effect of what's going on within themselves and other people, that kind of thing. And that's really important. And I think that's the sort of world we're moving into now, being more present, being more aware. But also more people now are feeling that bipolar effect, which is, you know, the moments of madness, and then the moments of assurity and certainty, and knowing that everything's okay and as it should be.
Definitely. So what's been your hardest lesson on your journey so far, and what did it teach you?
Hardest lesson, I think, is raising children. I think that the acceptance that actually love is not just about the nice bits, the going out to the farm shop and, you know, and coming home and having Sunday lunch and playing in the garden and all that sort of thing. It is very much about the challenges that you know, puts you through as a parent, you know, and having that fine line of trying to give but not give too much, and you know, and knowing when to be and when not to be, and it's such a I guess it's that in itself is a cathartic process. But that very much, if I hadn't had children, I never would be doing the work I'm doing, because it also anchored me. You know, I would have been very selfish without children. I would have just done whatever I wanted to do. I would have cleared off and backpacked around China or whatever. You know, that's the kind of thing I probably would have ended up doing. But because I had children, I had to put them first, but also do what was best for the greater good. And that often comes with its challenges, when children are looking at you and thinking, why is she making these wacky decisions? So it's, you know, it's still anchoring and staying in the essence of who you are, and not wait even when they think that you are doing the wrong thing. Yeah,
which can be a massive challenge, and to kind of try and explain to children, you know, certainly under a certain age, why you have to do certain things and why things have to be a certain way, when they don't necessarily fully understand life and, you know, understand you as a person. It can be really challenging, because you feel like you're the bad guy half the time.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, that's the thing, isn't it? And I think that's the thing. It's stepping back from it and knowing it's okay to be, to not be okay, and we're doing the very best we can. I think that when that is reflected back to you, then that helps you to look at life as well, and with other people as well around you. Because we constantly, we can't help it, we judge ourselves critically all the time, don't we?
Absolutely.
It's just a case of, I think we our children help us to realize that actually it's not that important anymore to keep judging. It's about, acceptance, isn't it?
Definitely. So in that vein, if you could go in a DeLorean and travel back to your childhood, what would you say to your younger self?
Oh gosh, I would definitely say to myself it would be all okay. And actually, the one thing I wanted to do as soon as I knew I could write, and well, actually it was before that, it was when I could read. As soon as I knew I could read, I knew I wanted to be a writer. And because my dad was an entrepreneur, he had these sights for me. I was going to become an interior designer, and don't be so silly, you can't write silly stories and make a living out of it. You're not going to do that. I had this dream, and I saw myself in this dream constantly of being a writer and sharing this message with the world. I thought, in my naive head, that I was going to be a singer. So yes, I would probably go back and reassure and say, actually, your dream does come true. And that's all. And that's what I wanted to, that's what I held on to when I was a child. That's what kept me sane and kept me alive and hoping.
Absolutely. I love that, because I think it's very easy if you have a dream to, like, say, your ego comes into play and you think, I'm not good enough, it's not going to happen. But if you have a dream, it doesn't really matter how old you are. It's never too late, is it, to kind of try, Regret is it's so much worse than trying and failing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I think. That's the thing with the clients as well. Similar to coaching, it's you kind of helping them, give them permission to do what they're fearful of doing. But with this, there's a deeper anchoring in knowing that actually everything's going to be okay, and it will turn out the way that they hope and dream it will do. Whereas coaching can be very sculpted and it's very goal orientated. This is a real knowing that actually you can have anything you want, as long as it is in your dream set, as I call it, because we all have very individual and very unique dreams. And also, I think we are very limited in our thinking as well, and because of our upbringing. Our dreams are just the tip of the iceberg. Once you start really interacting and actually making those dreams a reality, that those dreams actually create other dreams, and those get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's just a knock-on effect then as they keep unfolding.
Definitely. I had no idea when I started this that I would end up doing what I'm doing, and the twists and the turns and the growth. But like you say, it's like a confidence thing. It's like, if I can do this, what else can I do?
Exactly.
It's kind of exploring, and it's and then of course you think, well, what's going to come next?
Absolutely. And the thing is, we are incredible. We are designed in a way that we can overcome huge adversities, but we're very clever and we're very intuitive when we are able to see solutions and opportunities. And I've always believed that we never attract anything we can't overcome. We never attract anything that there isn't a solution to. And all I do is help people to see that when we open up to what we call our genius potential, what I call our genius potential, which is using the left part of our mind as well as the right, and working in tandem, then we have one foot in the physical world, one foot in the spiritual world, and then everything is open to us. All solutions and possibilities are there, including all our hopes and dreams. So once you anchor into that, once you really give it a shot, you kind of never look back. And that's what the wonderful process is when I work with people, because when they go, it's quite sad actually. Once I've worked with them for 4 months, it's like you've been a foster parent for 4 months, and then they're going off into the world, and it's lovely, but also you need to let them go, and they don't want to go, but they know they need to go, and it's that's when you know that you've got that bond, and that something
it's
magical
like
has happened.
The mother bird kicking the baby bird out the nest, isn't it? It's like, go fly now, off you go.
Absolutely.
Oh, bless you. So obviously you've written 3 books about angels, like I said, and they were Light, Love and Wealth. So do you feel that, at this time especially, our angels are with us, and how would you recommend people start to connect to them?
So absolutely. So we, when I wrote these 3 books, each one was a very unique process, because the first one was really is really the foundations to the work I do. And it's all about healing. You've got to heal first before you can move to the next stages. And I just come out of hospital. I just had sepsis, and I was about to have a kidney removed when I started writing that book. It was a very surreal experience, but I was writing it as I was healing. The second one was about love, and I was actually going through a breakup in a relationship, which actually came good in the end, which is it's very interesting. It's just how we perceive how love is. And then the one with wealth was all about security. I had to let everything go when I was about to start writing that one, leave my home, everything, and start from scratch again, which was a very scary experience. So, you know, I have never had any doubt my angels, whenever I needed help with anything, were there. The thing is, it's our perception of what is real to us, and whether we have any awareness of whether they're there with us or not, which counts. They are there with us. They're aligned to us, assigned to us from the moment we're born. The reason we don't connect with them is because we've got blockages, or we're not able to perceive them. And it really is about doing practices that help you to align to the right hemisphere of the mind, which then opens your connection, your communication, because this is your transmitter and receiver of information. And you work on this, and then that all happens. It all comes to you, and it comes to you in the physical sense, so you can see it tangibly. So it is about practice.
Absolutely, absolutely. I found that in my own, you know, the work that I do, and in my personal life, it is a daily practice. It's showing up, and like you said before, you know, it's not that they abandon you, it's that you block yourself off from that connection, right? It's just doing the work to open that back up again, right?
And also, I meet people all the time who've never had any experience or believed, you know, total atheists, you know, that say never understood this, but I happen to say recently I've been through an experience, and there is something I can't explain. Can you help me with this? And then, you know, but it's when the time is right for people. Sometimes, you know, they're being closed off to it to a certain point, and then it suddenly opens. Some open up earlier. So it just depends on timing. But when you feel that you want that connection, that's why Ryan asked me to write these books. It was for people who wanted to connect with angels, or were just embarking on it and getting some connection, but wanted to deepen their relationship. And that was one, and that hadn't been done. There's lots of books on angels out there, but no one's really teaching it from that perspective, where you know, we start from the foundations and really start connecting, you know, in a more tangible way, because there is a way.
Absolutely. Because I think faith is one thing, but to actually see a tangible, hands-on, you know, things that you can do yourself. A lot of people like that, don't they? Rather than just taking them faith. Absolutely. So it's definitely go and check them out. It sounds fascinating. It really does. So who or what inspires you to be your best self every day?
I think really it's my kids. I think because they are, I think that just that disconnect with being only partly here, you know, as teenagers growing up, I think they inspire me because I see an aspect of myself in each one of them, in the things that they do. It reminds me of where I was when I was them at that age. And that inspires me because they are, you know, growing up in a world that's incredibly confused and very different. And I think that that's the thing that's really empowering to me. They keep me going. You know, their struggle with what's currently going on and the things that they have to go through makes me realize I can keep being, you know, better and doing better, you know, at what I keep doing.
Definitely. I love that. I love that. As a mother myself, I'm very aware of that. And like, there's no greater teacher really than your own children. I think obviously we teach them, but they teach us a lot about ourselves as well. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I really do. So last question, my darling. These interviews are called the Glow interviews because I wanted to bring some light to the darkness. So in that vein, what lights you up and brings you joy?
Being out in nature. I just, you know, there's nothing better than being out in nature. I have to get out there every day if I possibly can. I do about 5 miles a day. And I think that this is another thing that we're all being taught at the moment, especially when we had lockdown. We were sort of contained and then let out, and suddenly people you'd never seen walking in places that you walk are walking there and experience stuff. So I think it's that wonder that's, you know, that I still have that childlike connection with nature when I look at leaves and I look at the bark on a tree and I smell the, you know, the change in the temperature at the end of the day, and you know, the season changes, everything. That's what lights me up, and I still marvel at it every single day.
Oh, I love that. It's beautiful and a really lovely energy to finish on. So thank you so much, Amanda. That was such a good conversation, and it's very inspiring and empowering, like I said. So I really appreciate you taking your time out to talk to me today. Thank you so much.
No, thank you for the invitation. It's been a pleasure.
Bless you. And go and check out Amanda. I will leave all of her links down here, so go and have a look. She's amazing, whether it's her books or the work that she does on a one-to-one. Please go and have a look. She is really a blessing to us all. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will definitely see you on the next one. Lots of love and light to you. Have the most wonderful day. Bye.